I think you're very right to point at the role that Pakistan has played throughout the past 20 years and even before, and it is one that has involved hedging its bets constantly about the future of Afghanistan. It's one that's involved harboring members of the Taliban, including the Haqqanis. I think you're very right to point at the role that Pakistan has played throughout the past 20 years and even before, and it is one that has involved hedging its bets constantly about the future of Afghanistan. It's one that's involved harboring members of the Taliban, including the Haqqanis. It's one that's also involved at different points cooperation with us on counterterrorism. And so there are a number of things that have come into play. It has a multiplicity of interests, some that are in conflict, clear conflict with ours. When it comes to Afghanistan, it's focused, of course, as well on India and the role that India is playing in Afghanistan, and it looks at it through that prism as well. All of these things, I think, have influenced what it has done. On many occasions, detrimental to our interests, on other occasions, in support of those interests. And so going forward, what we are looking at, what we have to look at, is an insistence that every country, to include Pakistan, make good on the expectations that the international community has of what is required of a Taliban-led government if it's to receive any legitimacy of any kind or any support going forward, to include ensuring freedom of travel, to include making good on its commitments on not allowing Afghanistan to be used as a haven for outward directed terrorism, to include upholding the basic rights of the Afghan people, including women and girls and minorities, to include allowing humanitarian assistance in, to include having a more representative government. And so Pakistan needs to line up with the rest of with a broad majority of the international community in working toward those ends and in upholding those expectations. Throughout the year, we were constantly assessing their staying power and considering multiple scenarios. Even the most pessimistic assessments did not predict that government forces in Kabul would collapse while U.S. forces remained. As General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has said, nothing I or anyone else saw indicated a collapse of this army and this government in 11 days. The evacuation itself was an extraordinary effort under the most difficult conditions imaginable, by our diplomats, by our military, by our intelligence professionals. They worked around the clock to get American citizens, Afghans who helped us, citizens of our allies and partners, and at-risk Afghans on planes out of the country and off to the United States, or to transit locations that our diplomats had arranged and negotiated in multiple countries. There's no evidence that staying longer would have made the Afghan security forces or the Afghan government any more resilient or self-sustaining. If 20 years and hundreds of billions of dollars in support, equipment, and training did not suffice, why would another year, another 5, another 10? By January 2021, the Taliban was in the strongest military position it had been in since 9/11, and we had the smallest number of troops on the ground since 2001. As a result, upon taking office, President Biden immediately faced the choice between ending the war or escalating it. Had he not followed through on his predecessor's commitment, attacks on our forces and those of our allies would have resumed, and the Taliban's nationwide assaults on Afghanistan's major cities